Hey up everyone. Well, yesterday we got the confirmation that Bajaj had saved KTM. The reality is they had taken a loan out for €566 million at the start of the week, and by sending some via the Pierer Mobility Group and some direct to KTM, they have fulfilled the rescue package terms and conditions. Everyone was quick to jump on the headlines, of course, but there is still much to digest, as there was news earlier in the week about other changes within Stefan Pierer's empire and ex-empire, depending how you see it. What this money covers is purely and simply the cash that was needed to pay off the 30% agreed amount to creditors. It does nothing to alter the fact that the factory in Austria is still shut, but no one's talking about that one. It does mean that Bajaj Autos is very much in control of KTM now, and there's been a lot of shouting about Stefan Pierer stepping down from the board completely. The official statement, which I will put on screen in its entirety, states that Stefan Pierer steps down from the executive board of Pierer Mobility AG in June 2025 after the conclusion of the restructuring proceedings. The supervisory board appoints Verena Schnegelberger-Grossmann, who has been with the group since November 2015, as the new member of the executive board and chief legal officer of Pierer Mobility AG, supporting the CEO Gottfried Neumeister. I will put various news articles up, but timing the different parts of them all is impossible, so it will be best to pause and read them, I think, to get a round view. One of the other things no one seems to be looking at is that the money is not an investment as such. It's a loan and comes with strings attached. Yes, yet another loan, on top of the €200 million in loans to get the factory running before they had to close it again. And what was that all about? Why borrow some money to start up the factory, then shut it down again just before borrowing more money to bail KTM out again? Incidentally, despite Rajiv Bajaj's own personal fortune being readily available, the money is being loaned in part by Citibank, who were one of the insolvency board's representatives. So the reality is, in 6 months since last November, Citibank, Stefan Zockling and the Insolvency Council have completely failed to find any genuine new investment, and have, at the final hurdle, used yet more loans to keep the company afloat. Let's think about that for a minute. Was it not the excessive loans and increased interest rates that started all of this debacle? Yes, there had been an overproduction of bikes, but the interest on the massive loans that PMG and KTM had been running on was unsustainable then, and I cannot see it as anything other than unsustainable now. However, for a year at least, things are to continue, sort of, because that money doesn't actually cover getting the factory in Austria up and running again. That is a different story. But let's look purely at the financials here. In 2023, KTM had record sales and record profits. The earnings before interest and taxes figure was €160 million. So in the very best circumstances, which is stretching it a bit, if KTM equal those record figures this year and all the money goes to pay the Bajaj loans, they will still be over €600 million short at the end of the year. Does that sound sustainable to you? As to the strings attached, the deal is rumoured to stipulate that if the full loan amount is not paid within the year, then the loan will be converted into shares. But we know Pierer has had a deal like that with Stefan Zockling once too. The full amount we are talking about is around €200 million since January to start the factory, and another €550 million this week, so €750 million in total, to be paid within a year. I say now that that is impossible for them. It had been previously announced by KTM that any new investor was unlikely to see any profit for 10 years. But at that rate, with the increased interest on the loans, I think it will take more like half a century. If you consider the factory is still shut, the only thing that has changed since the November insolvency announcement is that the creditors got scammed by Pierer and Co., the suppliers aren't happy, small investors got cut out of the equation, and the power balance within the Pierer empire has changed a little. It is still the same people involved. One thing to consider, or for some maybe worry about, is the fact that Verena Schnegelberger-Grossman has now been confirmed on the board. She is the legal eagle that oversaw the MV Agusta acquisition and was subsequently placed in the controlling position on MV's board by Pierer. She is one of his most trusted advisors, or some would say accomplices, I'm sure. Anyway, to the news that people aren't talking about. At the beginning of the week we heard about a major restructuring that involves KTM Racing. Despite all Pierer's previous promises, corporate changes were made within KTM AG to create better conditions for potential investors for the MotoGP project. In addition to appointing Lucas Lauda, the son of legendary Formula One driver Niki Lauda, as assistant manager to support the new CEO Gottfried Neumeister, KTM has confirmed the transfer of its factory team's MotoGP grid slots to a Swiss-based parent company. My first reaction was, how is this remotely legal in the middle of the changes caused by the insolvency proceedings? Neumeister stated they are a Swiss-based parent company, but as you will hear later, Pierer states clearly that they are still part of the KTM AG group. So which is it? According to KTM, this reorganisation aims to simplify investment opportunities and attract partners focused specifically on the MotoGP side of operations. The move is also said to be part of a broader restructuring to separate the road racing and off-road divisions under the KTM AG umbrella. At this point I wondered, why a Swiss holding company? Banking secrecy perhaps? Anyway, KTM's motorsport director Pierer said, "We made an internal change. It was about shifting things. It's a purely formal thing. We have made corporate law precautions and carried out a legal separation between the activities in the field of road racing and off-road racing. All this is still under the umbrella of KTM AG and characterised by the stabilisation of KTM AG. A potential investor in the MotoGP project will hardly accept 65 off-road works riders. Here, there is a clear interest through MotoGP and Liberty. So, I can understand the comment about 65 off-road works riders, but there are two other important points here. The first is that there will be a total split between KTM Racing's MotoGP team and KTM Racing's off-road endeavours, and the second, that both will still be held under the KTM banner, with KTM AG as the parent company. His view of the company does contradict what Neumeister said, so which is it? Neumeister called them a parent company, whereas Pierer's description would effectively make them a subsidiary or a holding company. As there has only been one Swiss company announced, that would mean that the MotoGP team has effectively been separated off completely, but the off-road teams haven't. How that will pan out is anyone's guess, but it does seem like the whole thing has been driven by deals with the Liberty Media team and Dorna. So now, contrary to Pierer's previous statements, separate investment in the MotoGP concern is exactly what KTM are looking for. They just won't see any of the money, and investors usually want shares. Where have the shares to create this investment opportunity come from within KTM AG all of a sudden? Is this another backdoor to siphon more money out of KTM without the oversight or control of the Austrian banks and other legal oversight committees? Who are the members of the board at this new holding company, I wonder? The background to this part of the story is that it could significantly increase the value of the MotoGP deal that is happening. The upcoming acquisition of MotoGP by Liberty Media has, according to reports, been followed by 4 companies approaching existing promoter Dorna with an interest in an investment in the KTM MotoGP project or the KTM grid slots. The reality is, even after this announcement and the furore about how Bajaj have saved KTM, the future is far from clear and certainly not rosy. Manufacturing of the small capacity road bikes has continued throughout in India, and it is these bikes and the Indian market that will now play a key role in the future of KTM. Rumours have it that the dirt bikes will continue to be made in Austria with a very slimmed down workforce, but so far no money has been set aside to do that. It is also already being discussed that CF Moto may well be the ones building the bigger displacement bikes in the future. I have heard that Bajaj have themselves been developing an all-new 700cc parallel twin that is not derived from the LC8C engine, but then another source stated that it was based on the 790 engine. So rumours abound, but facts are thin on the ground. We will start to see how this all rolls out next year, but until the Austrian factory is started up again to build the dirt bikes and CF Moto are confirmed as manufacturers for the 1290 and 1390, most of the available bikes in dealers are likely to be the bikes based around the 390, 790 and 890 engines, and built in India or China. So we actually know very little more than we did a week ago, really. There is still no start-up date for the factory, and as far as I'm aware there have been no deliveries of the much-needed parts to start up production. For riders' sake, I hope things begin to settle down and parts supply improves soon. There was a rumour that Bajaj will look at the LC8C cam issue as well, but I have no idea how they could work out a way to settle that now after all the denials of the past. Time will tell, as they say, but for now, some will feel a sigh of relief, others gasps of disbelief, I'm sure. I'm glad KTM in some form are still with us, but I do worry about the sustainability of a company that has such a massive debt again before they even start production. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Will KTM Austria survive? Will the race teams from the dirt bike world be separated off like the MotoGP team has? And how will factory support look in both MotoGP and the various factory racing teams in the dirt bike world? Remember, the mothership is still in debt with shareholders to satisfy. What will KTM look like in the future? Thanks as always to everyone, but especially the BAREBONESMC family who support me with their donations. Without them, none of this would be possible. Try and remember to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Sharing the video any way you think people will be interested helps us a lot too. If you'd like to help us stay truly independent, you can make a one-off donation or join our group of monthly subscribers on the Ko-fi link on screen. Monthly subscribers get access to a private group where I share videos I can't screen on YouTube, and people who make a one-off donation will get exactly the same access as the monthly subscribers. It just resets after 30 days. That means for a minimum donation of just £1, you get to see if you think the extra content is worth more than £1 a month, and if you do, you choose the amount you can afford to chip in each month. Remember, we make the best biker t-shirts too. With original designs throughout, we have hundreds of the best biker t-shirts anywhere. Take a look around the shop to see what's on offer. We have quality t-shirts, graphic print t-shirts and neck gaiters all available worldwide. Links to the main website and the Redbubble shop are in the description. Have a great week, and always remember, keep your spanners close and your keys even closer. Ride free, everyone.